light. Let me love you and I wanna bring the fight. Gonna see the beauty of living beyond the night. I wanna take this in, I wanna feel tonight. Right out of pain, I'm moving lost but I'm found again. I wanna take you closer, I wanna feel the spin. Full sensation of danger, pleasure of skin to skin. I wanna hold you close, I wanna feel the spin. 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 Sounds of love, I'm so under your spell. Take it closer, breathe it in. I'm so in love, I'm so in love. Everybody's losing their focus to find the light. Let me love you and I wanna bring the fight. Gonna see the beauty of living beyond the night. I wanna take this in, I wanna feel tonight. Right out of pain, I'm moving lost but I'm found again. I wanna take you closer, I wanna feel the spin. Full sensation of danger, pleasure of skin to skin. I wanna hold you close, I wanna feel the spin.
You know, I'm laughing at the comments. What's going on, guys? I'm sorry about the music. I just put it on a random shuffle, and whatever comes up just comes up. So I'll have to make sure that the music doesn't sound horrible on our intros. So I apologize. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Yeah, I cannot wait for today. I was going to wear a LaMarcus Aldridge jersey, but obviously that wouldn't be fitting. That would be a complete miss. But it is Spurs night, so happy Spurs Day to everybody. We just got some late-breaking injury news as we were doing the introduction, so we're definitely going to break that down. So, TJ, what's your thoughts on the overall slate? How are you doing?
Who's the late-breaking injury news?
Biombo's starting now for Zeller. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Not much has changed, though, throughout the day. I was looking at the slate. I know the Fantasy Labs wanted to change the slate as many times as they could, but they just couldn't do it. And it looks to me like it's still pretty straightforward. Where do you want to start tonight? Do you want to start with...
I'd like to start with half my face getting cut off.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's obviously not ideal. Let me move that down. There you go. Yeah, we're trying to get a more professional look on our webcams, so that will be the next upgrade. Obviously, Skype is not the move. All right, where do you want to start, TJ?
I mean, it makes sense to start with San Antonio.
Okay, let's go to San Antonio.
Is Zeller playing?
No, well, he's unlikely to play is what they said.
Just says he's not starting.
I think the last tweet was he was unlikely to play. It says active but unlikely to play. I think Roto actually tweeted that out. Hold on, let me go back. Roto Grinders. If you guys could spam the chat, hit us with that news too.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything.
Cody Zeller will be active but is unlikely to play Wednesday, according to Roto Grinders NBA News.
All right. Well, Biombo, what is up?
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get to that. So let me go ahead and start off with the Spurs, because the Spurs are obviously where the chalk is. As I said in the video this morning, Jacob Hurdle, yes, it's Hurdle. So 63% owned for Jacob Hurdle. Okay, 3.2K. As we know, he was up in the 5 to 6K range. Obviously, without Aldridge earlier in the season, so we know he has potential. We know that it's going to be an average spot for the Spurs. 114 actually isn't that bad going up against Dallas, so I actually like that a little bit more than I thought I would. I thought they'd be around that 110, maybe even lower than that over under, but I do like the 114 over under spread for San Antonio, assuming because Aldridge does slow down the offense a little bit. They're going to be relying on DeMar DeRozan to put up a lot of shots tonight, which leads me to my next play. Obviously, DeMar DeRozan and Jacob Hurdle are going to be the most chalk on the slate. And then you start to get to these other Spurs, and when we look at their sheet, TJ, it looks to me like they're not even as bad of plays as Jacob Hurdle. I mean, they're obviously not as great, but they could easily be just as good plays. I mean, you're looking at somebody like Trey Lyles, 27 minutes, 9% ownership, 3.8K, easily has a very high ceiling. DeJounte Murray, obviously another play to look at, but these ownerships are so low, it kind of makes me scared to get onto them in cash. Patty Mills, 24 minutes. Bryn Forbes, 24 minutes. Again, they're bottom of the barrel price tags. What's your overall thoughts on this slate, or on the Spurs?
Yeah, so DeRozan and Hurdle are obviously cash locks. Both of them are very efficient with Aldridge off the court. Hurdle's going to start at center, so at 3.2, he's obviously going to be a lock. He's going to be probably the chalkiest play on the slate, along with DeRozan. So those two guys are definitely getting implemented in cash. In terms of these other guys, it's always tough to tell with minutes. Pop likes to disperse them throughout, a fair amount of guys. So we'll see like Bellinelli get some run. Lonnie Walker. Rudy Gay was projected with 24 minutes earlier in the day, now down to 18. I feel like the 20 was kind of his threshold, so I'm not really in love with him. He'd be more of a GPP play. I definitely like Trey Lyles. At 3,800, he actually gets a little bit of a usage bump, 0.84 fantasy points per minute, so he rates out pretty well on our sheet at 3,800. DeJounte Murray at 5,900, I can definitely get behind him in cash as the last spot. He actually gets only a 1% usage bump, but averages 1.16 fantasy points per minute with Aldridge off the court. He's currently projected at 29 minutes. I mean, he played 20 against OKC, 34 against Utah, 26 against OKC again, 34 against Denver. I mean, his minutes are so sporadic, so it's pretty tough to tell. I would assume he plays 30 plus tonight if it's a competitive game against Dallas. So I would think Murray's more of a GPP play. Jakob Hurdle and DeRozan are obviously locks. Trey Lyles would probably be the guy that I'm going to next, and then it would be Murray after that. I mean, I definitely like Patty Mills, too, at 3,300. I think he's viable.
Yeah, and the last time I checked, Rudy Gay's minutes were at 22, 23, and it looks like they're back down to 18. So that takes me off of him a lot. But again, Rudy Gay could end up being another decent play if he does get the minutes. He still plays 17 minutes in the last contest, still got 27 DK points. We know he can ball out. He averages over a fantasy point per minute without Aldridge. So to kind of decipher here, your strong cash plays are Jacob Hurdle and DeMar DeRozan. I think
Hurdle and DeRozan
for cash, and then obviously with GPPs you can go many different routes with the Spurs. And the one thing about the Spurs obviously is what's Popovich gonna do. So I think once the starting lineups come out, like Lonnie Walker could easily be in the starting lineup, could easily change up the minutes. So we just kind of have to wait to see what the starting rotations look like, because you're obviously gonna go with that. Everybody else is pretty much up in the air as far as minutes. So I saw that somebody put Frozen on on the chat. I just checked it, and it's not frozen to me anymore. If it's giving you guys issues, please do let me know. All right, so where do you want to go next? Do you want to go to Phoenix?
Sure.
Okay. So Phoenix, they're without Kaminsky and Oubre. So obviously a decent amount of usage to go around. They're playing at home against the Clippers. I do suspect it will be more competitive just because it is at home. Obviously, if they were playing at LA, it would be a completely different story. But it's projecting it at a 7-point spread right now. I do like Dario Saric here. He's starting for Oubre, which was actually kind of surprising, playing 25 minutes. I do suspect if he's starting, that's pretty conservative. He should get over 25 minutes, but I do like his output. Averages close to a fantasy point per minute at 25 minutes. Obviously, a great value pick for Phoenix. To go down the list here, Cameron Johnson projected at 27 minutes. Again, I don't really know how it's going to shake up with Saric in the starting spot, but if he does play for 25 minutes, he's still a very viable play, more of a GPP option. And then Devin Booker, our boy here, 7.9, usually is a make or break play, but I do suspect he'll have a great night tonight at 7.9. It's going to be easier for him to cover that price tag, so I do think he's cash viable. And then, of course, Ricky Rubio, I took him 2 nights ago. He was in my top GPP lineup. Didn't take it down, but he got 62 points for me. So just obviously has been on a different level as of late. He's been so up and down. Definitely a viable GPP option. And then, of course, a lot of people are going to be on Ayton tonight. Ayton at the center position, I definitely could get behind that. There's a lot of center options. But yeah, I think at Mikal Bridges is the only guy I'm really not going to recommend. I think those 5 that I did recommend above, though, are going to be my safest bets for both cash and GPP. TJ, what are your favorite picks from this team?
Yeah, I can agree with you on everything you just said. I mean, Saric is most likely a cash lock for me at 3,200, getting the start. Gets a 1.5% usage bump with Oubre off the court, 0.95 fantasy points per minute, so definitely cash viable. You alluded to Devin Booker. I really like him tonight. I think it's a good spot against the Clippers. They're going to try and stay competitive. I expect Booker to be aggressive, especially with Oubre off the court. Gets a 2.8% usage bump, averages 1.29 fantasy points per minute. He's a 6+ on our sheet. So I definitely like Devin Booker tonight. I expect both those guys to carry a fair amount of ownership and cash. So I think I'm going to pair them with those 2 Spurs as my 4 cash locks currently. I think it's a pretty safe play to have those 4 guys. I think they're all going to carry a pretty good amount of ownership. So in that, yeah, you said Cam Johnson. I mean, if he's actually getting 27 minutes, I definitely don't mind him as a GPP play. Gets a little bit of a usage bump, only 0.73 fantasy points per minute. So nothing to go crazy over. He's very 3-point shooting dependent. So if he can hit some shots, then I mean, he can easily pay off that price tag. Rubio, Ayton, Bridges, definitely GPP plays for me. I'm pretty sure Rubio gets the biggest usage bump with Oubre off the court.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he gets a 3% usage bump, 1.2 fantasy points per minute. So I definitely like Oubre as well at 6'9". I mean, there's a lot of value between Phoenix and the Spurs tonight. So
I
those
think
are
you meant
definitely
Rubio. You said Oubre. Rubio, right?
I said Rubio with Oubre off the court.
Okay.
So, I mean, the Spurs and the Suns are definitely 2 teams you want to look to target tonight. I mean, obviously, Ayton against the Clippers bigs is a really good matchup, but definitely more of a GPP play for me tonight. Averages 1.29 fantasy points. So these guys are very productive. Oubre is a pretty high usage rate guy. He's the 2nd highest usage rate guy on that team. So taking him off the court disperses usage to some of these other guys. I mean, Rubio, Ayton, Booker, and Oubre are the 4 studs. We know that. So you take one of them away, it's just going to give Booker, Rubio, and Ayton more touches, more chances to score, be productive. So this is definitely another team that I want to look to target tonight along with the Spurs.
Yeah, I think your core, and it's been looking like this for the majority of the day, is definitely going to be the Spurs and the Suns. And like I said, Fantasy Labs and the NBA in general, we're trying to shake up the slate a little bit. So we're going to move on to a couple teams here just to touch base on, because I know there's some confusion on where to go after that, because Houston came out with that news that Eric Gordon's going to be sitting out this contest. I mentioned in the Discord, and I also mentioned in my YouTube video, that Daniel House got the minute boost from 24 to 32. Eric Gordon was coming off the bench anyway, at least with Westbrook back, he was. So he was getting around 27 to 29 minutes, so it's not that much of a minute disbursement. But Daniel House benefits the most minute-wise. 5.9 on our sheet. Not as productive as we'd like, but again, that's probably the highest value on Houston besides James Harden. James Harden still gets that monstrous usage boost with Capella and Eric Gordon off the court. Obviously, he's always seeming to show low ownership just in general for James Harden. I love him because of his floor. and obviously he always has a high ceiling, and especially tonight at a 124.75 projected over under. I really do like James Harden as another pay-up option. The only problem with that is there's 2 standout pay-up options just like the other night, except there was 3 the other night. Tonight, it can be a lot easier to shove those 2 pay-up options into a lineup. We'll talk about that once we get to the other pay-up option. But James Harden, I think, is just another fantastic option. Opens up some more opportunity for a pay-up option. And then Robert Covington here, 33 minutes, averages about a fantasy point per minute. Not a bad play. I think outside of that, I'm not really touching anybody. Of course, PJ Tucker at 4% is always intriguing, but we know what he can and cannot do. It's either a 40-point game or a 2-point game. You never know. No in between there. So, TJ, who's your favorite place from Houston?
Yeah, it's going to be Harden at 11-3. I mean, I like him and Westbrook. I'm trying to decide on which one I want. I think they're both going to carry ownership. I think I'd rather go with Harden, even though he's 1,200 more. But I don't think you can go wrong with Harden or Westbrook in cash tonight or in GPPs. I mean, we know how productive they are when they're on the court. Westbrook's coming off rest, so I expect them to be fully ready to go after that thumb debacle that he had the other night. Harden gets a 3% usage bump with Gordon and Capella off the court, 1.75 fantasy points per minute. And for somebody to be a 5'9" on our sheet, that's 11,000 is pretty insane. So right now I have him pegged at 66.7 DK points tonight. I have Westbrook pegged at 52.1. So I don't think you can go wrong with either. I'd like to get up and get Harden and Luka tonight. But I mean, if I land on Westbrook instead of Harden or any 2 of those 3, I think you're okay. But like I said, I think I'd rather go Harden tonight. Covington showing some ownership. He gets a 1% usage bump. He's 1.04 fantasy point per minute. 5-6 on our sheet. I definitely don't hate it. More of a GPP play for me tonight, I think. I definitely like the matchup against Memphis. It's a very high over-under. I mean, Memphis loves to run the floor. They're the 6th fastest paced team in the NBA, and Houston's 2nd, and we know what they've done since they've gone to a small lineup. So, I mean, I expect this to be a high-scoring game. I feel like every single time I say this and there's a game that's supposed to be high-scoring, it never is. But yeah, those are the 3 guys that I'm definitely looking at. Harden, Westbrook, Covington. Those other guys, I'm not too sure. Like Daniel House got the minute update, the minute kick because of Gordon being ruled out. Yeah, I get that. But like we got Jeff Green in the mix now. DeMarre Carroll's kind of pegging some minutes away. Austin Rivers played really well last game. So besides those 3, I mean, it's kind of unclear as to what kind of rotation Houston's going to go. I mean, I expect Daniel House to play 30 minutes. So I don't. If I were to go one other guy besides those 3 that I named, it probably would be Daniel House. But yeah, I think Harden, Westbrook, Covington viable for cash or GPPs. Harden definitely for cash, and then those other guys are kind of just pick and choose. It's pretty tough.
The good thing about Robert Covington is he's actually pretty consistent. I mean, he's not scored under 32 points since he's been there. So I mean, it's obviously a very consistent player. So if you want a safe floor, I think Robert Covington is the way to go, especially in this high over under against Memphis. Hopefully they can keep it close. Memphis can.
He's very big on the steals and blocks. Covington is so.
Yeah.
Dwayne Dedmon's out.
Okay. All right. So I guess we can really go anywhere else. I mean, we can go Cleveland. We can go. We can't talk about Atlanta yet.
I'd like to talk about Memphis.
Okay. I mean that makes sense. All right. So Memphis. Let's start with. Okay, so on our sheet here, we have Dylan Brooks here at 4.7K, 5.9 on our sheet here. Has been playing absolutely horrible. I mean, he hasn't scored 20 points in 6 games. 6 games, and that's with injuries too. Now, if there's a night where he's going to pick it up, it's going to be tonight. Now, showing 20% ownership, that's the only thing that scares me about him. I would say it's weird because I would say he's more of a cash play with that percentage ownership. If it's going to keep going up like that, it's a high-paced game. Might end up being a safer play, but it's hard. It's going to be very hard for me to pin him over 20% GPPs just with how bad he's been playing. I think there's a lot of other options. And then showing Josh Jackson here at 1% ownership, 25 minutes, averaging over a fantasy point per minute. As we know, Jaren Jackson and Brandon Clark are both out, so we do suspect Josh Jackson here will get a slight minute boost. 25 minutes, I think that's a little conservative. But he's a fairly productive player when he's on the court. Again, a prime matchup against scoring wings. Houston is. And then Gorgie Zhang here, 5.2, obviously an absolute monster. I didn't even pen the absolute craziness of a fantasy point output that it was showing on her. She was like 1.26, I think it was. It's just, I mean, that's very inflated, so that's the only reason I didn't update it. But Gorgie Zhang, I don't have him penned here at the top of this sheet, but he is the best value on our sheet right now. Should dominate, 28 minutes, has been dominating. I think his last contest, he got what? It was 38 DK points, so that would easily cover his price tag. Yeah, and then Melton, also not a bad GPP play, 23 minutes, 14% ownership. Really, all of these Memphis Grizzlies are great plays. It's going to be another night where you're just going to have to choose a couple, throw them in the GPPs, maybe evenly distribute yourself amongst all these Memphis Grizzlies. It's going to be hard to choose them. If I had to recommend, obviously, Gorgie Jane is going to be the most obvious one, and I'd say Josh Jackson is one of my favorite GPP options on the slate, for sure. TJ, what are your thoughts on Memphis?
So it's tough to say just because we know like those Memphis bigs like Val and Jang, like we don't know what kind of offense they're going to run to counter Houston's small lineup. Like, are they going to go small? Like, are they going to put Kyle Anderson at the 5? And, you know, in certain situations, like, will they have Jang or Val out there at all times, one of them? So I'm trying to figure out like what approach Memphis will take with the small lineup of Houston, because if Valanciunas does get 28 minutes, he gets a 2.8% usage. I mean, obviously this is without Jang because Jang just got there. And the sample size with Jang on the court was only, like you said, 37 minutes. So it was pretty preposterous. But Valanciunas with Clark and Jaren Jackson up the court gets a 3% usage bump, averages 1.38 fantasy points per minute. Like I said, that's with Jang out of the picture. So I mean, his minutes have been down. He hasn't played more than 30 in the last 5 games, Valanciunas, that is. But this would be a real good matchup for him. I think going Zhang would probably be a better bet just because he's a lot cheaper and probably should see the same amount of minutes. I mean, he played very well when Clark got hurt against the Clippers last game. So I'm just scared because of the small lineup of Houston, and I don't know how Memphis will approach it. Like, will they play small as well and match them, or will they have a big down low and try and, you know, attack them that way? But yeah, Josh Jackson, I really love him. He was in the cash lineup that I posted before we pivoted the other night. I still think he's a really good play. Averages, he gets a 4% usage bump with those guys up the court, averages 1.01 fantasy points per minute. So very productive. He's not afraid to shoot. And in a game like this against Houston, that's going to be very high paced. A lot of shots getting taken. He's not afraid to shoot. So I definitely like Josh Jackson. This could be a really good game for Dylan Brooks to get back on track. He's struggled as of late, obviously. But when he gets hot, he can shoot just like Josh Jackson. So those are two guys that I'm looking to target. I don't know if Dylan Brooks is necessarily a cash play. I mean, he is garnering some sort of ownership, and it is a really good matchup. So if I land on him, I don't think I'd hate it. But that's still to be said. We're still waiting for some injury news. Like, we got to think about Biyombo now, like Cody Martin. Those are two guys that are really very min-priced. But yeah, I definitely think there's some value in this Memphis team. I'm just trying to figure out what kind of lineup they'll run out and who should see an uptick in minutes if they go small, or if they do go big, who's going to benefit between Val and Jang.
Since you mentioned Chicago, or I keep saying Chicago, I said that in my video too. Since you mentioned Charlotte, do you want to move there now? Because I haven't even really looked at them since the update. So Biyombo at 24 minutes, I do suspect he will be a little bit more chalky now. Since they don't have any big guys besides Hernan Gomez, and I guess you can throw PJ Washington into that picture. Have you calculated at all? Other than
I did, but I did it with Zeller on, so
okay.
Yeah, I gotta go back and do this now that
All right, guys, bear with us.
No, he's off. My sheet's all messed up though, so it's very aggravating.
Oh yeah.
I organized it terribly today, so it's just I'm going through like an idiot. It's aggravating. Let's see.
So it shows he averages 0.94 or 91 fantasy points per minute at 24 minutes, which will bring him to a decent value here. Oh, 7. Okay, better than decent. So yeah, that quick calculation there, Biyombo is definitely viable now, and again, it will be interesting to see how the ownership kind of shakes out. I'm gonna compare that against the other values here, real quick for you guys. So, like, to compare that, I think Jacob Hurtle here is still better. Saric still rates better on their sheet. And I think Biyombo would fall right underneath them. So as far as like lineup construction, of course, percentage ownership, it's showing Saric and Biyombo about the same. Now, the only thing I'm gonna say is when there's two players like that, they're the same value wise, you're gonna go with the higher over under. I think Saric should be the better play. Not saying Biyombo isn't a good play at all. I'm saying that Saric is probably going to be the better one, just with higher upside. But again, if the ownership's more on Biyombo, I suspect he would be more of a cash play. Again, I don't think these percentages are updated yet. And then Cody Martin. Cody Martin here is showing a... Oh, I didn't update it. Did you refresh my sheet by any chance?
I'm sorry?
My sheet just got like completely refreshed, which is not good.
What do you mean your sheet? I didn't. How would I touch your sheet?
No, I'm on FanDuel. I'm blaming you for switching it to FanDuel.
I'm on my own account, sir.
I know.
Sir.
All right, so switching it back to DraftKings here.
It's his first time, guys.
Yeah, clearly. Cody Martin here, 6.8 on our sheet. TJ, what are your thoughts on Biyombo and Cody Martin?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to garner ownership. The minutes are there. They're very cheap against the Knicks. I'm not psyched about the matchup. I don't like playing guys from Charlotte. They're an absolutely atrocious team. They could easily come out and score 70 points again like they did last night. It's just abysmal having to play these guys sometimes in cash. If I do come down to it, I'll probably take one. I kind of feel like
Well, it's showing Cody Martin at 2% right now, so that's the only thing.
Yeah, no, that'll definitely change.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. Yep. I mean, he rates out very well on our sheet, so I do like Cody Martin. I think I would rather go him over Biyombo right now. Yeah, I mean, if his 2% doesn't change, that's wild. I feel like it should get to. What does that say? Ennis start?
Well, the reason TJ is why I brought that up is because the percentage updated on Biyombo, but not Cody Martin. So he actually might be at 2% because he's showing a 5.3. He's showing a 5.3 on Roto. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, if he's at 2% and I do run GPPs tonight, I will have 50% of him. So, yeah, I would expect that number to change a little bit. I guess if that means that Biyombo is going to be more chalky, then he's definitely the safer play in terms of cash. But I like Cody Martin for GPPs.
Yeah, no, I like him for GPPs as well. Obviously, rates well on the sheet.
I don't think Biyombo is a necessity because, I mean, you already got Jakob Poeltl at 3-2 in your center spot tonight. So if you do go him and Biyombo, it kind of handicaps you a little bit because you have to go center and util.
Yeah.
And center, so it's that's pretty tough.
Well, the one good, yeah, that's true.
So but there's so much value right now for these cheapies that like I don't know if this is completely viable or something you would want to do, but I think you can get Westbrook, Harden, and
Doncic,
Luka tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might be it's obviously another stars and scrubs kind of night. It's just dependent on what scrubs you want to play. Yeah,
if you do that, you can't get DeRozan, and DeRozan's a must. So
yeah, he's gonna carry the second highest ownership.
Yeah,
for sure. All right.
So,
but other than Biyombo and Cody Martin, you're not interested in anybody else from this roster?
Nope. I don't care about any of those players at all.
Do you want to talk about Cleveland at all?
I mean, not really, but
I don't either.
And his minutes have been down. So, I mean, it's not like he's been having that much of an impact right now for Cleveland. I mean, he averages 1.3 fantasy points per minute since he's gotten there. I feel like it just gives a little bit more minutes to Nance, some more minutes to TT, and some more minutes to Porter. And then it looks like Cedi Osman got a pretty big bump in minutes. I don't love any of these guys. If I'm taking a guy, it's going to be Kevin Porter, just because a little bit of recency bias, just the way he's been playing as of late. I mean, he had 50 points against Miami. I don't expect him to duplicate that type of effort, but
9, 51.
Yeah, 9,950. Yeah, but I mean,
It's just
before
funny.
that, he also had, 30, 29, 21, 20, 25. So he has been pretty. I mean, he had two lulls, but yeah, it's not really anybody that I'm jumping through hoops to try and roster.
No, I'm just gonna say
Even with Domino.
Cleveland's just strictly GPP. I mean, you can never figure them out. There's not that much upside, especially against playing against Philly. I mean, it should be a defensive struggle. It should be an offensive struggle for Cleveland. So I really don't see any reason to get to Cleveland. I mentioned that once we updated their sheet, they really weren't that high at all on their sheet. So you want to switch right over to Philly? Maybe there's some plays. I kind of want to talk about some of these guys because, as we know, Ben Simmons is still out, so the price is kind of adjusted. Josh Richardson is still not a bad play at 5.2, a 5.9 on our sheet. Al Horford, if he's getting 30 minutes, is still not a bad play. Again, these are more GPP plays. They're showing a little bit lower in percentage ownership. Tobias Harris got a significant price boost here, 7.5K, but it's still a decent play for GPPs. And then Joel Embiid is going to be the tricky one, showing the lowest percentage ownership. He was showing chalky during my video. He was showing at 27%, but ever since all this injury news came out, dropped all the way to 10%. Are you looking at any of these guys from the Philly roster for cash?
If I were, it would be Al Horford and Josh Richardson because I like those price tags. I don't think Embiid's the pay up tonight for cash. I think it's one of Harden and Westbrook, and then Luka. But I mean, Embiid has been an absolute monster with Simmons off the court. He gets a 4.3% usage bump, 1.65 fantasy points per minute. They don't have Drummond. I mean, that's a tough matchup for Tristan Thompson. So I definitely don't hate Embiid, but yeah, GPP play. If they do start that lineup like they did last game with Shake Milton, Richardson, Tobias, Al Horford, and Embiid. Somebody just a tweet just got liked. Yeah, so I think Horford and Josh Richardson would be the two that I would be targeting for cash, but I don't even know if I'll get there. I just don't like this matchup. I mean, I don't like this game.
Yeah, no, I can agree with you. I think the rest of the slate is going to be dependent on the slate breaking injury news here out of Miami, because with Adebayo still questionable, we know that Trae Young's still questionable, and I think everybody's on pause until that happens. And it's at both those games are at 7:30, so it's kind of hard to really go a certain direction as of right now, other than Phoenix, the Spurs, and then the couple pay up options that we talked about with Doncic, James Harden, Westbrook. I think that's your general direction, guys. And, of course, if you can fill in maybe some of these guys from Brooklyn that we haven't talked about yet, going against Washington's high over under, it's kind of tough to really go a certain direction right now with anybody else. If Bam Adebayo is out for Miami, obviously we're going to have to look really deep into that team because they're in such a high-paced game against Minnesota. Miami's the highest over-under I've seen for that team all season long. And because of that reason, I like somebody like Jimmy Butler, and I like him even more if Adebayo's out. I think Jimmy Butler is one of my favorite options just because nobody's looking at that mid-range, and he's in the highest over-under on the slate. Or not in the slate, on... He's in the highest over-under, one of the highest over-unders, 122.5. So Jimmy Butler, coming off back from an injury, though, that's the only hesitation. But, he should be full strength. And 8.2, that's obviously an underprice if they're playing at that high of a pace. So it's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be tough. We're going to have to wait. Hopefully we get the injury news soon here. Where else would you go, TJ, other than the teams we've already talked about? Are you interested in any of these Brooklyn teams or any of these Brooklyn players?
For GPPs, yeah, but just a quick tidbit for Miami and Minnesota. Miami opened up at 120.25 team total over. They're almost up to 123 right now. They're at 122.75. That game opened up at 231. It's now at 234. If Bam is out, I definitely think that's going to draw some interest a little bit more to Jimmy Butler. I would assume they start Olynyk at the 5 and then Derek Jones at the 4 too. So I think that gives more minutes to Olynyk, more minutes to Derek Jones Jr. So that's definitely interesting, especially both of them sub 5K. So yeah, we're definitely gonna have to wait and see what's going on with Bam if he does sit or not, because obviously that's huge. I mean, he's a high usage guy for them. He's mid to high 20s percent usage, and he's just a focal point of that offense, even more so than Jimmy Butler. So If he's out, that's big. And same thing with Trae Young. I mean, that will give more value to guys like Kevin Huerter, even John Collins. So those are two big injuries that could definitely shake up the slate if they do get ruled out. Other games, I mean, yeah, the Brooklyn Washington game is definitely interesting. I think it's more of a GPP type game just because, it's the value is just so elsewhere tonight. Like if we didn't have Aldridge out tonight and if Eric Gordon was playing, I feel like there would be more concentrated ownership from this game just because of the over-under. We know how, and Phoenix, I guess, we know how Washington plays at home, especially defensively. It's very back and forth pace when they're on the court. So I definitely like some of these guys for Brooklyn in terms of GPPs, like Dinwiddie, Jared Allen. I mean, we like to attack those Washington bigs, so I definitely like Jared Allen as a good GPP option. Even DJ too. And then Washington, I mean, Napier's starting, so I think he should see a little bit of an uptick in minutes. He's starting over Ish Smith. I kind of like Ish Smith coming off the bench anyways. Napier played 36 minutes against the Bucks last game. He was very productive for them. Again, I don't expect him to do what he did against Milwaukee at 47 DraftKings points, but it is pretty interesting that he's starting, so I definitely like him for GPPs. And I mean, we know the tear that Bradley Beal's been on. He's just been absolutely lighting it up in losing efforts. The poor guy can't catch a break.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely like this game for GPPs, but no cash plays for me there.
Yeah, it's very odd that we would say that with this over/under of this game. It's just crazy. But like you said, there's just way too much value in the San Antonio game and Phoenix to look away from those teams.
No, definitely.
But yeah,
someone asked about the Gordon Hayward revenge game going back to Utah.
Yeah.
A couple years out since he's. I don't. GPP play, I guess, if you want to.
I guess since we have about 20 minutes left on the stream, if we don't get any more injury news, I guess we can start breaking it down. Do you want to start giving your cash plays? Do you feel confident enough to give those yet?
Yeah, I mean they're pretty straightforward right now. It's Jakob Poeltl, DeRozan, Saric. Those would be three really good building blocks. I mean Harden and Luka are very good. Booker's really good. Trey Lyles, Biyombo now. One of him or Cody Martin. I mean, that's kind of the direction that I'll be going. I'd rather go Harden over Westbrook, but I don't hate you if you go Westbrook over Harden. I think you should get two of Westbrook, Harden, and Luka. And then if you can get DeRozan and Booker as well and then kind of fill in with some of those cheapies, I definitely like that. That's kind of where I'm at. I want to wait and see what happens with this Biyombo, Cody Martin ownership update because, like I said, I don't think Cody Martin will be 2%. If he is, it's definitely somebody I want to be overweight on in terms of GPPs.
Yeah, I keep refreshing. So, I mean, he moved from 1% to 2.27%. So
there we go.
That. So,
it's flying
definitely huge movement. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's funny when you're naming your favorite cash plays, you name some of my favorite GPP plays too, because everybody here at the top is just so straightforward. For the guys listening to the stream, you guys already have an edge if you just play the top 5 guys that we were just talking about. Hurdle here, 65% owned. I'm trying to get him off 100% owned for my lineups personally, but it just keeps happening. He's that good of a value play. I keep trying to throw the randomness in there and increasing it. It's just not getting off 100%. He's that good of a play tonight. So unless he gets injured, guys, he's going to hit value. He just has to. DeMar DeRozan, another great play again for cash. Saric is my favorite GPP option on the slate just because he's showing at 13.6% own and GPPs, which is crazy to me. I think with him starting at 25 minutes, like I said, that's more on the conservative side. I could see him playing up close to 30 minutes easily. James Harden, another great GPP play. If he's really showing at 22.67%. Again, Devin Booker's showing really low owned. And then my favorite player that you haven't mentioned, TJ, is Patty Mills, showing at 10% ownership. They're going to need somebody else on San Antonio to step it up tonight scoring-wise, and of course, Patty Mills definitely fits that mold. Of course, if we don't get popped and he ends up playing 10 minutes, I do like him. So I like him playing, in the mid-20 range and getting hot. So those are my favorite plays, and of course, Jimmy Butler, if Bam Adebayo is ruled out, is going to carry more ownership. But as of right now, if Bam does play, I still like Jimmy Butler. I like Bam in that kind of game. I like a lot of these Heat players for GPP plays, but I do like Jimmy Butler a lot for GPP. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up. Also, Ricky Rubio at 8% too is another good one. All right. Do you have anything else to say about these cash plays, or maybe your direction at all, or is that it? Pretty straightforward.
No, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's Luka, Harden, or Westbrook, 2 of those 3. It's DeRozan and Booker. It's Jakob Poeltl and Saric, and then kind of fill out with some of those other value guys.
Yeah. All right. Want to go to questions?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. All right, guys, feel free to ask any of your questions in the chat below, and we'll be sure to get to them. We're going to get off just a little bit early just so we can get to everything. And, of course, guys, if Adebayo is ruled out or Trae Young, we are going to update on Twitter. We're going to update in the Discord and try to get those updates to you guys as quickly as possible. So go ahead and ask any questions you guys have.
Someone keeps talking about Beal. Yeah, I don't like Beal for cash. I like him for GPPs, though. I don't think the ownership's going to be there for cash. But it's a great matchup, so.
Yeah, one of the biggest, or one of the worst enemies in DFS is recency bias. Yes, Beal has been going absolutely insane. But I mean, if his ownership's going to be inflated because of that, I'd recommend not playing him for that reason. I'm not saying he won't have another great game. I'm just saying it could be one of your worst enemies when looking at recent games. Because again, you don't know what the rotations looked like the game before. You don't know the situations. You don't know any of that. So again, it's just. The last thing you need to do is look at recent DK games just to see how many fantasy points you got at the previous contest. All right. James Ennis. Yeah, I mean, he's starting now. How many minutes is he getting?
Probably 24. I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's GPP if you want to take a shot. It's a good matchup against Atlanta, but not for me for cash.
Yeah. No, I can agree with you. It's just historically he's not been that productive of a player. I get that it's a pace up spot, but if I'm looking at anybody from this game, it's going to be somebody like that's going to be putting up a lot of shots. Somebody like Evan Fournier, somebody like Vooch. Vooch is 9.5 though. I mean, that's very high. But again, a prime matchup for him. So I'm going to be looking for somebody that's going to be putting up a lot of shots. Trae Young, solid GPP play. Good question. If he plays, I mean, 10.4, that's about where he should be. It's going to be a pace down spot. I mean, he's another pay-up option, sure. If he gets hot, I could see that. I probably won't have too much exposure to him at all. It's just like James Harden is such an obvious play tonight. He should be in a smash spot here.
Someone asked Teague if Trae Young's out. Yeah, him or a good one. So be one of those guys that gets the minutes.
Harden and Biyombo or Westbrook and Josh Jackson in cash. I'm going to go Harden and Biyombo.
Yeah, it's tough, but I would go with that too.
Okay. Somebody said total percentage after builds. I don't know what that means. If you could expand on that. What is a GPP? I'm going to save that for a different time, not stream. If you want to know what a GPP is, watch my other tutorial videos. I have a lot of tutorial videos, guys. If you haven't caught the video I put out earlier, it's about contest selection and how to build lineups from scratch. So if you're interested in that, feel free. Top fade of the slate. I know you're always coming in with that question. Top fade.
Hey, gave him Pascal last night.
Yeah, no, that was good, and I didn't believe in it.
Joker.
Yeah, he kind of messed me up too. So good call on that. I'm going to say my top fade. I will say Dillon Brooks. Just so up and down. That's the only reason for it. I would say he's a great play if he was out of his slump. But, I mean, he's strictly shooting dependent, right? And he's just in such a bad slump. Such a bad slump. But tonight you should get out of it. With that being said. Russell Westbrook, really good play. He's a really good GPP play because we know that Harden's the obvious play. Westbrook is not so obvious, so Westbrook is making for a great GPP play. What percentage ownership is he showing? He's showing at 14% ownership. So right now I'm matching the field on him, so I can kind of agree with that. I'm really overweight on Harden. Biyombo starting at 31. Yeah, Biyombo's still a good play, guys. We don't know if he's going to make it into our lineup, but he's still a fantastic play. Showing about a 7 point per dollar value on our sheet. Is there any free sites you can see percentage ownership? I do not believe, because I tried myself a while ago and I couldn't find any. Not any that are accurate. I know Awesemo posts some for free sometimes. I even know that Roto Grinders does that sometimes. So if you want to dig around, let us know. I'd be happy to share that with you guys. Are we playing Tobias Harris tonight? Depends on what you mean. In GPPs, I'll probably have some exposure, probably not in cash.
No, not in cash.
Yeah, it's like with the Philly picture. There's all their prices are adjusted upwards, so you kind of have to take a stab at different ones. Collins or Aaron Gordon for GPP? Well, if Trae Young's out, Collins 100%. Aaron Gordon's been playing really, really well. Again, it's a pace-up spot. I don't hate either one of them, but I do love Collins if Trae Young is out.
Rozier bounced back after last night. Played New York, had 40. You can roster. I'm never rostering. I'm never talking about Terry Rozier again. He's banned from this live stream, from our lineups. I expressed my hate for him last night and had to play him because of chalk, and he's atrocious. So, Macklemore cash? No. Nope, there's definitely better plays down there that you can go to.
Best play at cash play at power forward. Let's see.
I'd say Sarge.
Yeah, Sarge. Yep. More GPP if you want to get down to Rudy Gay or Lyles. I answer that question. But yeah, Sarge is the most obvious. He's getting guaranteed 25 minutes probably in the starting rotation. Bertans or Biyombo GPP? I'm going to say Biyombo, just because I think he's a great value play, and he's still showing very low owned at 14% because there's so many center options. So
that's definitely FanDuel. It's got to be FanDuel.
Oh, because they're completely different? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you're talking about value on DraftKings, I will say that.
Stack sense. Yeah, Fernando is starting, huh? 3-2. I'd rather go Jakob Poeltl. I'd rather go Biyombo. Because they do still have Damian Jones. I mean,
is Daniel House in a good spot with no Gordon? He's in a decent spot without Gordon. I don't think he's anything flying off the charts, but he's in a high-paced game. He could definitely pay off. Top 5 picks GPP contest, 40,000. I'll just give you my favorite GPP plays. I don't really change my favorite GPP plays based on the contest selection. I do change my overall lineup construction based on the field size. But my favorite GPPs, I'll go over them one more time. Sarge showing very low owned. James Harden showing lower owned than he's supposed to be. Devin Booker, Patty Mills, and Jimmy Butler. The most obvious plays in the slate, though, are Hurdle and DeRozan. Sarge love. Yep, we do like Sarge a lot. Cephalosha ruled out? Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that definitely, it doesn't change much, but it takes another person away from Houston. I don't know if that was already assumed because he wasn't never in the player pool.
Trae Young available to play.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you guys heard my corgi.
Did you hear what I said?
Trae Young?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. That's good because I don't feel like doing any more data crunching.
Yeah.
Top 3 core guys to build around. We answered that a little bit earlier, but we'll go ahead and start again. TJ, you want to answer that one more time?
Yeah, Jakob Poeltl, DeRozan, and Sarge would be my 3.
Yep. Macklemore, a good play tonight? No, I mean, he's an okay play, a GPP play, but those minutes are really low. 20 minutes. You can take a stab at any one of these shooters. It's just very confusing to see what they're going to do, especially like TJ said earlier with Jeff Green and Carroll back in this rotation. So it's going to be interesting. But guaranteed minutes, like if you're looking for guaranteed minutes, House, Harden, Covington, Tucker, and Westbrook are probably going to have your most guaranteed minutes. The rest of the team, though, like Austin Rivers, Jeff Green, McLemore, Carroll, you don't really know what's going to happen there. Best small forward on the slate is DeRozan. Kevin Love is sleeper tonight. I don't think anybody from Cleveland's a sleeper tonight. I've roasted Cleveland so many times this season. I mean, he gets a slight usage boost, but not much. Averaging 1.16 fantasy points per minute, I think it was. And it's a pace down spot. No. I mean, 3% sure if you want to take a stab at him. Josh Richardson or Ish Smith for single entry GPP. Ooh,
Josh Richardson.
That's tough. Yeah, I mean, I probably lean Josh Richardson too. DeMar DeRozan or Butler. DeMar DeRozan should be, if you're playing one lineup, he should be in your lineup. Period. I mean, 7K is 7 or 7.2.
7.
7. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Rudy Gay, a good play at power forward. I think he's a sneaky play at power forward. I don't know about good yet because we don't know what's going to happen with those minutes. Because he's showing 18. He was showing 23 earlier. Again, we know Popovich. I mean, when you're starting rotation looked like Lonnie Walker last time that Aldridge was out, you really don't know what's going to happen. So we have to wait for those starting lineups to come out. I mean, and when you're starting Matt Bonner in Game 6 of the NBA Finals, you really can do anything with this lineup that he wishes. So it's really just going to come down to who's starting. That's all I'm going to say. Any exposure on Valanciunas? Yeah, I'll probably have some exposure. I do like him. Again, I'll have a decent amount of exposure to all of Memphis just because there's so much value here. You just really don't know where it's going to go. Any one of these guys could have a very, very high ceiling tonight. But Valanciunas, yeah, I mean, 2%, that's crazy. With all these center options, for sure. Yeah, no, that was one of the few NBA players I met was Matt Bonner. Pretty cool.
That is cool.
And he's definitely... he looks smaller on TV. He's huge in person. Like, he's actually, like, built. It's crazy. All right. So, with Trae Young playing, I guess we're kind of off Atlanta. I think it's safe to say, right? Completely?
For cash, yeah.
Yeah. And then Fernando sitting at 19 minutes, so he's not really viable either.
Yeah, no, it's tough, man. Orlando likes to slow the game down whenever they can. I mean, they're not a high-paced team whatsoever. So obviously, Atlanta's at home, so they can kind of dictate the pace of the game as much as they can. But yeah, I mean, I'm not in love with the matchup. Orlando ranks 4th worst or last, 27th in the NBA in terms of pace. So definitely a slow team. That's why the Atlanta over-under is only at 116. I feel like we're used to seeing it a lot higher than that.
Yeah. There's one last thing I want to talk about, and that's what happens if Bam's off. So I'll run those numbers
I'm sorry. Their team total's at 111.
Yeah. Real quick, TJ, I'm just going to run through Miami, just see what happens with Bam out. I guess we can just kind of use... our own intuition with this. So, who is that?
Who?
KZ Akpala? Is that a person? Or is that like a restaurant?
Yeah, it's a restaurant.
Okay.
Never been?
No, I've never been. Sorry, that just kind of threw me off. Okay.
I kind of want to take some stabs at John Morant tonight.
Yeah, John Morant could easily be a good play too. Hero, Leonard, and Alexander are out, so let's take them off. Hero, Alexander. All right, so we'll see who gets a boost here. Assuming it's going to go a decent amount to, Dragic, 1.21 fantasy points per minute, so that becomes another good play. Jimmy Butler, 1.28 fantasy points per minute, which is about where he is, I believe, usually. But that's only a 60-minute sample size. With all these guards out, let me just take Bam off and see what that looks like. $1.35. So yeah, I mean, Butler gets a slight increase. So I like Butler a lot more if Bam is off the court, and that was pretty obvious. Anybody else get a massive boost here? Not really. So I mean, it's just gonna shake up the minutes at that point. So like Olynyk would easily be in play. Let me look at the roster. Olynyk, Derek Jones would obviously get a boost, and maybe even Jay Crowder and Silva. I think that's it. Those are the only guys to be looking at. And at a price tag of 4.5, like Derek Jones would be a very viable play, and even Olynyk at 4.9 because their minutes would be closer to 30, mid-20s to 30. But yeah. So if that does happen, guys, I will update in the Discord. I'm going to go ahead and get off here just because I have to update Patreon. I have to update a lot of things for myself. TJ, any last words before we get off?
No. Good luck, guys. Yeah, let's have a big night.
All right, guys. Have a great Wednesday night, and let's cash.
See you guys.